Hello everyone, welcome back to Kanji Oh Boy Ma Show. Let's memorize kanjis. Today we'll do the kanjis from 71 to 80 of the Kodansha Kanji Learners course. Okay, let's get into it. So this is kanji number 71. Okay, that's how that looks. And I will not cover the mnemonic because I think radicals are important to cover before it. So for now I will skip on the mnemonic. Maybe later on if I do a session for radicals, we will look back at the radicals and we'll probably look back at the mnemonics for some of the kanjis that for which I have skipped mnemonics. Okay, so this kanji means replace, substitute, generation or age, and charge or fee. Okay, now let's have a look at the own and kunyomis. It has a bunch of kunyomi. They're all very similar, so let's have a look at them one by one. You have kawaru, kawari, gawari, kaeru, yo, and shiro. And the onyomi are dai and tai. Okay, now let's quickly have a look at some words. We'll first start by seeing how we write the kunyomi reading. Okay, so that's kawaru. Okay, because we've already written that in the kunyomi with the waru in parentheses. I am not going to write it here. I am just going to write the meaning. Substitute or take the place of. Okay, take the place of. Let's have a look at the other kunyomi. So this is kaeru. Again, substitute or replace something with another thing. Okay, replace something with another. Now let's have a look at another word. Oops, I apologize. Now I hope, okay, before we can get straight into the meaning, let's have a look at some principles of how Japanese works. So here you have the form of A no B. Okay, in English this means B of A. Sometimes it can even take up the meaning of for, but this is rare. And it takes up the meaning of for because of how English works, not because of how Japanese works. Okay, so B of A or B's A. This is how no works. So here now let's try and arrive at the meaning. So okay, let me first give you the reading of it. Okay, It is Minoshirokin. Now let's try and arrive at the meaning. So you know that the last two kanji are supposed to be substitute and money. So this is substitute money for the first kanji, which means body or person. So what is substitute money for person? What kind of situation do you imagine you would need to pay someone as a substitute for a person, or you have to pay them money and then get a person back in return? It is the case of kidnappings or a hostage situation, and this word means ransom. Okay, let's have a look at the next word. This is going to be read as Taisho no Yo. Now I hope you remember this. Taisho. This means the Taisho period, when whoever was the respective emperor in Japan ruled. I don't know the name of the emperor that ruled at that time, but a particular emperor in Japan's past, I think sometime in the 1910s and 1920s, was named, or rather the period of his rule was named Taisho. And so this Taisho no Yo, you're talking about age or generation. So here you will translate it as Taisho era. Oops. Era. Okay. Taisho era. Okay. Let's have a look at the next word. Okay, I hope you can read this part. This means taxi. So takushi and dai. So you also saw the meaning charge or fare. So this is going to be your taxi fare. Okay, taxi fare. Pretty simple. Now let's have a look at the next kanji. Now this is where you will perfectly see the structure or the way this book was sequenced, the way the kanjis in this book were sequenced, and why this learning method is effective. You will see over the coming kanjis. So let's quickly have a look at number 72. Okay. Okay. Let's try and arrive at the meaning of it. Now imagine this to be heaven. Imagine this to be man or mankind. And imagine this to be the earth. And imagine this to represent the union of heaven, man, and earth. Okay, now I'll give you the meaning of this word and then try to explain how this could have come up, or how you can memorize this. The meaning of this word is king. So at least in the past, in several civilizations, rulers have been thought of as children of gods or gods themselves. That is, they have been thought of as divine. Okay, so a member of the heaven who takes the form of a man who rules over the earth, and all these three are connected. Okay, which is where you get the meaning king. Okay, you can try and remember it like that. Let's have a look at the on and kunyomi. Conveniently, this one does not have a kunyomi. It only has an onyomi, and that is o, or o when you write o, but when you say it, it is o. Now let's have a look at some words. Okay. Ote. And the meaning is not as you expect, so let me just tell you what it means. Check or checkmate. That's what that means. Okay. Let's have a look at the next word. I hope you can read this part. Okay. And the meaning is media magnet. Okay. A media magnet. Oops, I forgot the 2 10 10. Okay. Now let's have a look at the next word. Okay, this is read as O Tateru. You know that Tateru, this Tateru means establish. How do you establish a king? You enthrone them. So O Tateru means you enthrone a king. Okay, next one. O no yoni. O no yoni. Now one tip here, this no yoni is kind of like a grammar pattern. It's a very common way of expressing something, and the meaning is like a king, and the meaning of this no yoni is like. Okay, so you can say some other noun. So instead of king you can have some other noun, and then you can add no yoni and it means like that. Okay, so one simple example with a kanji that we have already done. It may not make a lot of sense, but so you can think of it as like the sun. You can think of it as like the sun. So that's how that functions. Okay, let's have a look at the next kanji. This is kanji number 73. I don't know why I was thinking 53, but in any case, okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so now how do you think about this? Now that we know that this means king, let's think of this last stroke as a ring on the king's finger. Okay, and conveniently this means gem or a round or spherical object. So we all know that rings have gems in them usually, and not always, but a lot of times rings also happen to be round. So a ring in the king's finger, a gem, or a round spherical object. Okay, now let's have a look at the onin kunyomi. It has a bunch of similar kunyomi, so they are quite easy to remember. So the first one is Tama, then you have Tama, then you have Dama, and you have the onyomi Gyoku. One special thing that I'd like to mention here, this Gyoku is unique, which means you will not come across any other kanji over the course of this 2300 kanji marathon run which will have an onyomi of Gyoku. Okay, this is the only one. So let's have a look at some words now. It's read as Mizutama, and it means polka dot. Okay, or polka dots. It's a kind of a pattern that you see on clothes. Just Google polka dots. It's a very common thing. Most of us will have seen it, and it will be very easy to identify. Just Google it. Okay, polka dots. That's what that means. Let's have a look at the next word. I hope you remember what the kanjis are. It will be read as Hyakuendama. The meaning of the first two kanjis is 100 yen, and you're talking about a round or spherical object of 100 yen. So what could it be? It's a coin, right? 100 yen coin. Let's have a look at the next word. It should be quite obvious. You're talking about eye and a round and spherical object or a ball. So very obviously you're talking about eyeball, right? Medama. Now let's have a look at one more. Now this means soap, and it's read as shapon, and a round or spherical object that has to do with soap is obviously bubble. Okay, and again this thing is going to be read as shapon, so I'm not going to write that here, and dama. Okay, shapon dama. Let's have a look at one more. Okay, let me rewrite that zoo a bit properly. Yeah, so this will be read as tamani kizu, which means literally flaw in the crystal. Okay, more figuratively, fly in the ointment. Okay, it's an idiom which means that something useful has now become a little bit inconvenient to use, right? Okay. Oh, I forgot to mention one other meaning for this. Medama. Medama also means loss leader. Now, I'm not sure what exactly that means, so please Google it. I just know that loss leader has something to do with sales, but I'm not sure how what it's supposed to be. So please just look that up. Medama, the meaning that is more obvious is the eyeball meaning, and I imagine people are more likely to encounter the eyeball meaning than loss leader. So yeah. In any case, just look it up. Now let's have a look at the next one. 74, right? Okay, now let's try and see what that means. If you recall, we already did this in a past kanji and we tried to interpret it as a roof. So let's continue interpreting it as a roof for now. And we know that this part means gem. So let's think of it as something valuable. So you have valuables stored under a roof. So what can you call it? You can call it treasure. Okay, you can call it treasure. Now let's have a look at the on and kunyomi. The kunyomi is takara. Okay. And the onyomi is ho or ho. That's how you read it. Ho. Okay, in the past I have not explained this clearly, that even though the meanings are written as ho, or rather the reading is written as ho and u, so ho, but while pronouncing it is just that the o sound is elongated to be like ho. Okay, something like that. That's how that works out. Now let's quickly move on to some words. Okay. Okay. Hogyoku, which is again gem. So you're talking about treasure and gem, which is again a gem, because gem usually means that it has some kind of value, that it is a precious stone, that it is, somehow valuable. So the meaning does not change, it is just gem. Okay, now let's have a look at the next one. Excuse me. Toho. This is Toho. That's how you read it. And this Toho is of Toho Studios, in case you have seen movies. So you're referring to Toho Studio. You may have seen a lot of movies with this banner coming up in one of the first few shots. I think some Akira Kurosawa movies have come up with this Toho Films or Toho Studios. So you may have seen this before. Of course, my handwriting is not as good as kanjis appear in print, so there's that. In any case, let's move on to the next word. This is read as takarakuji, which means a lottery. Now think about it. If you win the lottery, isn't it like you just stumbled across some huge treasure? That's kind of why the treasure kanji shows up here. And it means lottery. Okay. Moving on to the next kanji. Kanji number 75. And this is how that's written. Okay. Now let's try and think about how to arrive at this meaning. Now this outer shape that we have, let's try and think of it as an enclosure. Okay, let's try to see it as enclosure. And now let's try and see this. Now we saw that this means gem, but for now let's try and ignore the last stroke and just see the larger king part in it. Okay, let's just think about the king part. Now you have an enclosure around the king. More figuratively speaking, this represents the territory the king rules, or territory of the king. Territory of the king. So what do you generally call the territory of a king? It's called a country. A country. Right? Excuse me. For those of us who thought kingdom, you're not far off, but there is another word that is used for kingdom, which we'll see today. But for now, remember this to be country. And don't forget that last stroke which we have missed here only for the purpose of explaining the meaning. Okay, let's have a look at the on and kunyomi now. Very simple, they're one each. So kuni and koku. Kuni and koku. Now let's have a look at the words. Okay, now can you tell the meaning? So it's okoku. So it's king country. Now this is kingdom. Okay, this is kingdom. Okoku is kingdom. Now let's have a look at one more. Just reverse the two readings that we saw in the previous word. It's kokuo. Now it means country king, which simply means king. You may think it's redundant, but that's kind of how language works. You don't usually have just one word for any one meaning. You have multiple words which mean the same thing. So yeah, kokuo. Okay. Next word. It will be read as kokuritsu, and it means national. For example, park. Okay, national park would be kokuritsu-en or something like that. Okay, let's have a look at one more. I hope you remember this. This is the repeat mark, and this will be read as kuniguni. Kuniguni. So you can think of it as this country kanji coming once again. So it's like one country, another country. So what could it mean? It means countries or nations. Nations. Okay. Now, an important thing that we have seen so far over the past 4 kanjis. So the past 4 kanjis have been very closely related. The first one, right? The second one, the third one, and the fourth one. They're all very closely connected, they're all very closely related. So you should be able to remember these without too much difficulty. The distinctions may be very slight, but because you have done these kanjis together, it will be easy to remember the meanings also together. Okay, so let's again see how this is. If we remember this as king, the ring on the king's hand, so that's like a gem. King's hand, so this means gem, right? This means gem under a roof, so this means treasure. Okay, only this one you're going to think of it as enclosure around a king, or okay, let's not remember the enclosure word, let's try to think of it as territory, king's territory, and it means country. Okay, pretty simple. So the mnemonic is going to help you out to try and remember the distinction of these kanjis. Okay, let's move on to the next kanji, and from here we will see a slight shift in the pattern. So this is kanji number 76. This is how that's written. Let's see how we can remember this. This we already know means sun. Now imagine this to be a blinding white ray of sunlight. Okay, the meaning of this kanji is white. Now you know why I had to say blinding white ray of sunlight instead of just saying ray of sunlight. The blinding white part is what is the memory trigger for you. Okay, let's have a look at the on and kunyomi. Very related ones, shouldn't be too difficult. Shiro, then you have shiro as a suffix, then you have shiroi. Okay, and the adjective, the onyomi is haku. In case you're wondering why I said adjective, this one is an adjective. Okay, so haku and byaku. Okay, haku and byaku. Let's quickly have a look at some words. So we'll first start by seeing how we write the kunyomi. This is shiroi, which means white. Okay, let's have a look at the next one. Quite literally, this is known as, or rather this is read as hakujin, and it's quite literally a white person, which means Caucasian. If you don't know what Caucasian means, look it up. Okay, this is going to be read as hakujitsu. So you're talking about a day which is bright enough to be white, or you're talking about broad daylight, basically. Broad daylight. Okay, next word. Now this word has two readings, so we'll first look at the first reading, shirogane. Okay, shirogane. So let's try and understand what this could be. So you're talking about money or a metal which is white, which is the most commonly known or most easily recognizable metal, which is white. If you guessed silver, oops, if you guessed silver, you're absolutely right. Okay, this can also mean money, because you know that the kanji means both metal and money. You're talking about white money, which means silver coins. Okay, there's a second reading for the same kanji, which is read as Hakkin. And if it is read as Hakkin, it means platinum. Because we all know that, you know, platinum also kind of looks whitish. Aluminium also looks kind of whitish. You know, the point I'm trying to make is there's not just one metal that is known today that looks kind of whitish. So saying white metal can be a little deceptive, which is why you use the same thing, but you read it a little differently to denote something else. Hakkin. Okay, let's have a look at the next one. Okay, this is going to be read as Mei Hakuna. So you're talking about clear, bright white, or clear white. Clear and white means obvious. Clear, oops, clear. It can also mean plain, and of course obvious. Okay, this na part, this na indicates that it is a na adjective. So again, please make sure to be going through grammar simultaneously. Okay, in any case, let's move to the next kanji, and now we will see why we had to suddenly change the pattern a bit. You know, it will become really obvious to you. So this is number 77. Is it number 77? Yeah, it's number 77. Okay, this is how you write that kanji. Okay, okay, now let's try and see. So we already know that this part means king, okay, and we know that this part means white. So there is a white thing on top of the king. White thing on top of the king. Now what do you imagine usually sits on top of a king or is on top of a king? It's a crown. So you can say not thing but crown. Okay, so a white crown on top of a king. It means he's more than just a king. A regular king has nothing on his head. But this is like a special kind of a king, or greater than your usual normal garden variety king. He's a special kind of king. So this means emperor. Okay, emperor. Another way of thinking about it, a bit more pedestrian kind of way of thinking about it is, you know, this is just your usual king, and this king has what, 4 strokes? 4 strokes. Okay, this is less than you having to write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 strokes on top of the previous 4 strokes, making it 9 strokes. So a ruler with 9 strokes is greater than a ruler with 4 strokes, right? Because 9 is greater than 4. So it's an emperor, because an emperor is greater than a king. right? Well, if you think why is an emperor greater than a king, well, I can't really answer that question to you. It's medieval logic, which doesn't really fly these days. So, yeah, blame it on the medieval peoples. In any case, the meaning is emperor. It does not have any kunyomi. It has two onyomi only. Okay. The first is ko, the other is o. Now again, this o is the same as the reading for this part, so it's easy to remember. So let's have a look at words. Okay. So kokoku. This means Japan, but it is an archaic usage. So you will not usually find people calling Japan as kokoku. They will usually call it Nihon or Nippon like we saw initially. But this if this word shows up kokoku, it means Japan. Okay. Now let's have a look at the next word. So I hope you were able to see why there was a break in the pattern. You had to see that it means white. You had to see that it means white before you could go back to the king part. So that's why that happened. Okay, now let's have a look at the next kanji. Again, you're going back to the previous pattern. This is that kanji. Now let's see how to try and memorize this. So if you remember, we did that this is heaven, this is man, this is earth. They're all connected. So they're all connected. And all of those things are under a roof. It's all under a roof. So it means whole or all, right? The roof has the heaven, man and earth, everything under it. So it has everything under it, right? All things are under it. Okay, let's have a look at the on and kunyomi. Let me write that ku properly. It's still not right. Yeah, mattaku and subete and zen. Zen. Okay, let's have a look at some words for it. Okay, so this means, or rather let's see the reading first. This means, whoops, I don't know how that happened. Zenkoku, which means the whole country. Obviously all country or whole country, right? And let's have a look at the next word. Zenbu. Now if you remember, the second kanji means sections. We did this kanji in the previous session, right? It meant sections, divisions, departments. So now you're talking about all departments or all sections, which again means the whole or wholly. Okay, or you have entire or entirely. Okay, or simply all. Right? Let's have a look at the next one. Okay, this will be read as Banzenno. Banzenno. I hope you remember this kanji. This means 10,000 or many. You know, that's many. We have done it very initially, so please go and look it up in case you don't remember. And Banzenno means perfect or infallible, which means there's no scope for mistakes. You cannot go wrong. Okay, infallible or absolutely secure, perfectly safe. Okay, and this is how we write the two kunyomis that we saw. So this is mattaku, which means entirely or utterly. For those of us who have seen a lot of anime, mattaku can also be used as, like seriously, question mark, exclamation, like are you seriously kidding me, mattaku, that kind of usage. And then next, this will be read as subete no, which means all, entire or whole. Okay, subete no. Now let's have a look at the next kanji, and this kanji can be a little bit of a pain to write, but let's try and write it anyway. And it's a pain to write, and it's interesting what the kanji means. I'm pretty sure you'll understand what I'm trying to say once I show you the kanji and the meaning. So let's have a look. Okay, that's that kanji. And let's see how we can remember this. Think of this part as being 3 fingers of a hand. Three fingers of a hand. And those 3 fingers of a hand are holding a pen. Okay. On top of a pile of papers. So what do you imagine is happening? What do you imagine is happening? Can you think of it as an official, or somebody sitting in an office with a huge pile of papers and a pen, and they're furiously writing something, or they're furiously signing something? Imagine you trying to fill out forms for JLPT by hand, or for some other government ID, or some other official university application, whatever. So you're filling it out by hand. So what are you doing essentially? You are writing. Okay, so write is the meaning of this kanji. There is another meaning, and that meaning is book. Okay, book. So let's now look at the on and kunyomi. Again, some very similar kind of kunyomis, which makes it easy to remember. So you have kaku, oh, I apologize, it's gaki, kaku, gaki, and gaki. And the onyomi is sho. Now, for those of us who are wondering what is the difference between this book and the one book that we've done previously, this kind of means documents, or you can think of it as documents or product of writing, and this made from a tree. You cannot use this as a rule, because normal books are the result of writing, but we still call them hon, the second kanji, rather than using the kanji that we did just now, show. There are some cases where you will associate the word show with such works as well, so it's a little difficult. It's not really this is not like a hard and fast rule. It's a little bit fluid. You'll get used to it as you go along, and you will see how different works of writing are named, whether with this kanji for write or whether the other kanji for book. So, but this is just just to tell you what the distinction is. Okay, so let's have a look at the last kanji for today. Oh, I apologize. Let us we forgot to do the words. So let's have a look at some words for this. So let's first see the kunyomi. Then the line has to continue all the way down. So you will read it as kaku. It means to write. Okay. Now we'll have a look at the next word. This will be read as kakitori. So you're taking something down in writing, or you're taking someone else's writing, or having someone else write for you in this case. So you're talking about dictation. Okay, kakitori. Take in writing. Okay, next one. Okay, a signal in writing is one way of looking at it, and it means, or a message in writing, yeah, you can think of it as that, a message in writing, correspondence or a letter, a message in writing. Okay, let's have a look at the next word. It has to slightly stick out, like this stroke has to slightly protrude. Okay, and this is read as hakusho, and literally it's white, but instead of writing you will think of it as paper, white paper. Okay, last one. Zensho, and this means comprehensive treatise or complete works. Okay, for example, the complete works of Rabindranath Tagore, a book with everything that he's ever written. So yeah, Zinsho. Okay, let's have a look at the next kanji for today. That's number 80. Number 80. This is how we write that. Okay, and let's see how we can remember this. Again, because there are some similarities to the previous kanji, we will take some aspects from the mnemonic of the previous kanji, so it becomes easy for us to remember. So again, you have the three-fingered hand. Three-fingered hand. Okay, same as before. And you have the pen, which looks slightly different from before, but you can still see that it's kind of a pen. But this time the difference is, in the previous example, here we had something that the pen was actually resting on, or something that the pen was making contact with, this part here. Whereas in this case the pen is pointing upwards, that is the tip of the pen. If we take this to be the tip of the pen, the tip of the pen is pointing upwards at something. So you can think of it as a pen pointing at something. Okay, at something. But it is not an object, right? You cannot see what the pen is pointing at. So let's say that this is a person holding a pen pointing at an argument that's happening along the corridor. You know, you're at one end of the corridor, and at the other end of the corridor you can see two people talking loudly and arguing about something. So you're pointing at that. Okay, let's imagine it like that. The meaning of this kanji is affair or abstract thing, right? An argument, like I said in the example, that you're pointing your pen at an argument that's happening across the corridor. It's an abstract thing. A conflict or an argument is an abstract thing. It's not a physical thing that you can touch or feel, right? So that's the kind of things that this kanji refers to. Now let's have a look at the on and kunyomi. Pretty simple. It is koto, or it is ji, or it is zu. Now let's have a look at some words for it. Okay, let me just rewrite that a bit. Could have been better, but this will be read as kaji. So fire affair, which means fire, and more like a fire accident. So example, fire accident. Okay, not just a bonfire or a fire at the fireplace. Okay, an incident involving fire. Okay, fire accidents, for example. Let's have a look at the next one. This will be read as bujini. And just like in the previous example, we will interpret the kanji that we have just done as an incident, and the first kanji means without. So this means without incident. Without incident. Okay, bujini. Let's have a look at the next word. You read it as yoji. Yoji, which means things to do. Things to do, errands to run, or some business. Okay, let's have a look at the next. You will read this as and you will think of it as decide to do. Now again, this koto ni suru is a grammar pattern. You can replace this, can use other verbs here. So you can add some verb with koto ni suru and it will take up a meaning depending on what the phrase koto ni suru means. So again, you can replace iku with some other verb and you can add koto ni suru and it will mean whatever the phrase koto ni suru is supposed to impart to that whole phrase. Okay, so you can look it up. And we will look at the next word. Oh, I apologize. I ended up writing kanjis because I was too focused on writing the kanji. So this is kaku koto ga nai, which means there is nothing to write about. There's nothing to write about. Okay, pretty simple, nothing too difficult about it. Again, this koto refers to an abstract thing. There is another phrase or another word which we use to mean tangible things, that is non-abstract things, and we will look at that kanji and we will contrast the two when we do that other kanji. So for now, I think this should be good enough. I hope this video has not been too long, although I cannot guarantee it. In any case, thanks for watching and see you next time.